In the freezing silence of the Arctic, a secret was lost, one that had the power to tip the scales of the Cold War. This is the story of a vanished spy satellite, a covert CIA operation, and a mystery still buried under layers of ice and secrecy. In the 1960s, the space race was not just about reaching the moon, it was also about watching each other from above. The United States and the Soviet Union were locked in a war fought in shadows, secrets, and satellites. The Corona program, America's first ever reconnaissance satellite initiative, was run by the CIA and the U.S. Air Force. Launched in 1959, it marked a historic shift. Intelligence gathering was no longer limited to boots on the ground or U-2 spy planes. It had now moved to space. Before digital imaging and cloud storage, these satellites carried actual film cameras, massive precision-engineered canisters that captured detailed images of Soviet military bases, missile sites, and nuclear silos from orbit. One 1962 Corona mission photographed a new Soviet missile site near Plesetsk, helping confirm the rapid growth of Soviet ICBM capabilities, an essential factor in U.S. nuclear planning. But here's the twist. The only way to get the film back was to physically drop it back to Earth. Yes, you heard that right. The satellite would eject a capsule about the size of a large garbage can, loaded with classified film. It would plummet through the atmosphere, and as it fell, a parachute would deploy. Then, in a maneuver worthy of a Hollywood blockbuster, a specially equipped plane would intercept the capsule mid-air using long mechanical hooks. It was a high-stakes operation every single time. 1968, the mission that went wrong. In 1968, one of these Corona capsules completed its mission. It was packed with sensitive surveillance film, potentially images of Soviet missile tests, naval facilities, or even activity in disputed regions like Eastern Europe or the Arctic Circle. The capsule was ejected and began its descent, but something went off course. Instead of falling within the designated recovery zone, it veered far north and splashed down somewhere in the frigid, uncharted waters of the Arctic Ocean. Just 6 years earlier, in 1962, the U.S. lost control of a nuclear-armed Thresher-class submarine, the USS Thresher. That disaster showed how easily U.S. assets could disappear beneath the ocean, making the Arctic loss of the capsule even more concerning. The race against time and the Soviets. Recovery teams scrambled, but they were racing against more than just the elements. The Arctic isn't just vast and desolate, it's also a potential goldmine for enemy intelligence, and the CIA knew the Soviets were watching. In 1960, the Soviets had shot down the U-2 spy plane piloted by Francis Gary Powers, proving they had both the means and the will to strike back in the intelligence game. The idea of them recovering a Corona capsule? Terrifying. If the Soviets reached it first, they could crack open not just photos, but the entire engineering design of America's most advanced reconnaissance system. So what did the CIA do? They launched a secret mission to retrieve the capsule, but they needed a cover story. Operation Ice Station Zebra. On the surface, it looked like a routine Navy exercise, a collaboration between military branches responding to a drifting Arctic weather station. But in truth, it was a high-priority search and recovery operation to retrieve one of the most sensitive pieces of intelligence ever lost during the Cold War. They deployed submarines like the USS Skate, aircraft, and elite crews. The mission had to be fast, precise, and most of all, silent. The USS Skate had already made history by surfacing at the North Pole in 1959. It had the Arctic experience necessary for such a dangerous recovery task. What followed remains one of the most obscure and debated episodes of the Cold War. According to declassified documents and insider accounts, the mission was plagued with problems. Ice made many areas impenetrable. Navigation systems struggled, communication faltered, and every hour counted. Some reports say pieces of the capsule were recovered, badly damaged, possibly beyond use. Others claim the capsule sank beneath the ice, never to be seen again. Officially, the CIA has never released a full account. Much of what happened remains classified even today. But this much is clear. Something of great value was lost. In 1968, the world was on edge. The Tet Offensive shocked America in Vietnam. The Prague Spring saw Soviet tanks rolling into Czechoslovakia, and the nuclear arms race continued at breakneck speed. In this climate, losing a Corona capsule wasn't just about film. It was about exposing the inner workings of American surveillance to the very power it was meant to monitor. If the Soviets had recovered it, they could reverse engineer Corona's optical systems and interception tech, potentially blinding future U.S. satellites or spoofing them entirely. That's why the mission was covered up. That's why the story never broke headlines. That's why, even today, we're piecing together the puzzle. The story of the lost capsule was so compelling, it inspired films, books, and conspiracy theories. In fact, the 1968 movie Ice Station Zebra, starring Rock Hudson, was released the same year as the real incident. Coincidence or calculated cover? Some believe the film was used as intentional disinformation, a public distraction to help shield the true mission under a layer of fiction. Even U.S. Navy personnel have admitted that the timing of the film's release and the real operation was too perfect to ignore. Others think the capsule was recovered, and the CIA kept it under wraps to avoid revealing just how close the Soviets came to breaching U.S. secrets. The Arctic remains frozen, silent, and vast. Somewhere beneath that endless white, perhaps, lies the final trace of a Cold War mission, long forgotten by history, but never forgotten by those who lived it. Was the capsule ever found? Did the Soviets get there first? Or is it still there, entombed in shifting ice and layers of secrecy? We may never know. But one thing is certain. The Cold War wasn't just fought in boardrooms, battlefields, or outer space. Sometimes it was fought in the ice.